This week on the Digital Coffee, LinkedIn have just launched instant video meetings. You're going to start seeing ads on the shop tab on Instagram, and the raise your hand feature comes to Twitter Spaces. All that and more after this. Good morning, and welcome to the Digital Coffee. This is your weekly dose of digital marketing and social media news for small business. My name is Amanda Webb, and thank you for joining me. I would love to know what is in your cup. What are you drinking this morning? Is it tea? Is it coffee? Is it herbal tea? Maybe it's something a bit fancier. Do let me know. I have had 2 cups of coffee. No, I haven't. I've had 2 cups of tea. I'm looking down here, 1.5 cups of tea. And as you know, if you're a regular viewer, I have to wait till after the show to have my coffee. Because if you think I'm talking fast now, you should see me on coffee. If you do leave a comment and you're on Facebook, you'll get a little message from my messenger bot with a copy of the Digital Coffee newspaper, which you can go and read all about the stories I'm sharing with you this week in your own time. And there's the links for you to read more. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, you will see that I've actually pinned a link to the top of the chat, and it's also in the description which will tell you how you can get that newspaper. Before I move on to the news, just a couple of things. Do say hello. Tell me what your answer is to the question of the week. If you're on Twitter, do you use Twitter lists? And this is related to one of the stories that we'll be talking about this week. So do let me know your answer to that one. Secondly, at 10:30 a.m. if you are on Twitter, come and join myself and Making Zhang to talk further about the stories that we're talking about this week. You can come and join us on Twitter Spaces, which means you can either just listen in, or you can come and you can let us know what you think about the stories of the week. If you're on Twitter, go to my profile at Spiderworking and you will find the link to that space pinned to the top of my profile. And May King, speaking of the devil, is here, and she says yes, she uses lists, and you see, look, she's preempting one of the stories we're going to talk about, so we won't say anything about that yet. So let's have a look at the news.
I'm Ian Anderson-Gray, and you're watching Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
LinkedIn is all about building relationships and strengthening those relationships, because it's building trust with people that you can do business with or you can refer to other people. And traditionally, the way that we used to do this before the C word arrived in our lives was that we used to go and meet people in real life. We used to connect with them on LinkedIn, and maybe we'd try and organise meeting up for a coffee if we were local. But of course, this had the problem that, finding the time to meet up with someone was always hard. And secondly, it was geographically limited because we could only have coffee with someone that we could actually travel to see. And LinkedIn has recently, within the last week, launched a new feature called instant video meetings, that now when you're having a conversation with somebody in a chat on LinkedIn, you'll be able to instantly start a video call with them, or you can schedule one for later. Now, if you've been on LinkedIn for a while, you'll be going, that's not new, Amanda, that's not news. We've been able to do that for a while. But there's a difference. This all happens within LinkedIn. You have been able to do this previously for a good amount of time now. It came in after lockdown, but you had to link to a third-party tool. So I think the options were Blue Jeans, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. So you were taking people off the platform for that conversation, which meant it was less likely to happen. It was harder for people to participate. Now it actually happens on LinkedIn within the chat. It's so easy. You'll see at the bottom, it's there already. Well, it's there for me, and so I assume it's there for everyone else. Start an instant meeting, and you can either start it right away or you can schedule it. So one, I think this is great. I think this will help you build better relationships with people. You'll be able to have meetings no matter where you're geographically based. It'll be easier because nobody has to travel. It's a video call, so you still get to see each other face to face. I think that's amazing. But I also think, we have to keep an eye on these social networks. LinkedIn is just showing its hand that it is going to become more like the social networks like Facebook and Instagram that are trying to wall off their little part of the internet. They want everything to happen on their channel. They don't want people going anywhere else. And this is possibly not the first signal of that, but it's definitely something that is happening on LinkedIn. I still think it's a great feature. What do you think? Would you use this feature? I think I would because actually I get a lot of business through LinkedIn for somebody who doesn't use LinkedIn very often, and it would be handy just to be able to press a button and have a call with someone. Good morning to Deirdre, who's also watching on YouTube. Now these days, YouTube is where it's at. Great to see you here. Okay, what's next?
You're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
If your target market is of 18 years old or younger, you're no longer going to be able to target them with customized Google ads, targeted Google ads. That's the word I was looking for, targeted Google ads. Google have launched a whole slew of new privacy features for under 18s this week, and that is one of them. You will not be able to target them based on age, gender, or interests. Now, this is obviously part of the whole new trend towards a more privacy-based way of doing business on the internet. Google has always been kind of ahead of this. They were already considering all these privacy updates before Apple came in with their iOS 14. And I think the people we do need to protect most obviously are under 18s, because I'm not sure how old you were when you were using the internet. I was in my mid-20s. So yeah, I am actually that old. I know it's hard to believe. But I imagine for under 18s, that whole being marketed to, and you hear about all sorts of scams being sent towards them. There's all these kind of drug dealers kind of putting out things in Facebook Marketplace that attract young people to move money around. I don't understand it all because I don't have children, but there seem to be a lot of scams based on them. So obviously this is the place to start with privacy. I think it's good. There's a whole lot of other stuff. One of these things does really interest me, and that is that they are giving under 18s, the ability to request an image of themselves is removed from Google search. And because they're under 18, Google's going to comply with that. Why I think this is interesting is, what if there's an image of me on Google search that I want removed? I think that feature should be available to everyone. It is your image. It is a picture of you. You should be able to request the removal. That's an end of the rant for me. Good morning to Kate, who is now a television star, I'll have you know. Good morning. She is drinking tea and she has some Twitter lists, but you forget about them. That happens to me as well. I've got a lot of abandoned lists on Twitter. I've recently created a new one, which I'm using quite actively. They have made it a lot easier for you to access them on Twitter, but it meant that I had to do a little bit of work to go and switch things around and pin lists. But I think I'm getting there. I do have a good list of cats that I follow on Twitter, which always makes me smile when I'm in a bad mood. Right.
Hey, it's Andy at Content Cal here, and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Twitter Spaces are becoming more popular since they got rid of Fleets, Twitter Stories, which I think was only last week or the week before. Now Spaces are standing out in the feed, and I'm seeing people on Twitter who've not noticed Spaces before going, what is this thing at the bottom of the screen? When I click it, this happens. So people are becoming aware of Spaces, which means more people are joining in. They're getting seen more because every time that somebody is in a space, it is appearing at the top of the screen. So you are more likely to get active within Spaces. And as you know, I run a weekly space with Making Zhang about this show. It's the after show for this, where we discuss the stories. And what I love is that Twitter is still innovating. They are constantly innovating with spaces. They know they are onto a good thing. And this week, they have added 2 new features if you are a speaker. So when you become a speaker, you get a new reaction. So you can react to people as they're speaking by clicking various buttons. But if you're a speaker, you get a hands up emoji. And unlike the other reactions, when you click the hands up emoji, it's a bit like on Zoom. It stays up until you decide to take it down. Now, why would they add this? I think it's because if you have a lot of speakers in the room, actually, even if you have 3 or 4, when somebody finishes speaking, all 3 of those speakers might want to jump in with their comment, and it can get a little bit noisy and the audio gets chopped up. So this way you'll be able to say, hey, I've got something to say about this point, and the host will be able to bring you into the conversation, which makes it a lot more civilized. The second new feature is not so exciting because we knew about it already. It's the voice changer. If you're a speaker now, you'll be able to put a weird voice, which I don't think they're very good because I don't know what people are saying when they use them. But I am excited about the hands up feature, as is Making, who mentioned it earlier on. Good morning to Mark from Pocket Video School. I ditched Twitter a few years ago, but to be honest, my social presence is pretty rubbish at the moment. Am I guessing that's because you're so busy, Mark? I'm guessing it is. Good morning to Catherine. Do you think spaces would benefit from having a text input, like for people to input a small comment if the reaction doesn't match? You know, that's a really good question, and it's a hard one to answer. I'm not sure. I do think we could do with some more reactions. It's definitely missing a heart. And yeah, I suppose the reason that, you know, it's nice that you can comment on this show, for example, that's because I can't bring you into the conversation to join in. The nice thing about Twitter Spaces is if you've got a comment, you can come in and share your comment with the group. So I think, you know, that could work really well. But that's just my initial reaction. Need to think about that. Good morning to Ginny, who says she's catching up. I wonder which part of the show she's watching right now, or are you here on time? Right. What's next?
Hi, I'm Carmel Siri, and you're watching Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Does your Twitter follower list look a bit dodgy? Are there some dodgy people following you on Twitter? And do you worry that if people look at that, it's going to impact your brand? Or maybe, you know, a long time ago when you didn't know what you were doing, you bought some Twitter followers, or somebody spammed you by buying you some Twitter followers, or you've inherited a legacy account that has fake Twitter followers on there. Getting rid of those has always been a pain. The only way to stop someone from following you in the past has been to block them and unblock them. That's assuming that you don't just want to block them for life, which was a complicated process. But it seems Twitter have thought about this now, and they're adding this new feature where you can remove a follower. You still have to do it on a 1-by-1 basis. So if you bought 1,000 followers, you're going to have to do this 1,000 times. But I do think, you know, actually facilitating this shows that they know there is a problem there, that people do want to stop people from following them. So I do think this is a good tool. I do think, you know, it's probably going to be a big task that you will need to do if you do have a lot of fake followers or a lot of the wrong types of people following you. Maybe you've just got a school friend who comments on everything that you do and you just think, well, I don't want them to know that I blocked them, so I'm just going to get them to unfollow me. I think this could work really well. Unfortunately, there used to be tools you could use that you could mass unfollow people. So you could find all your fake followers. You'd have to pay, but you get rid of these. But now the Twitter API doesn't support that, which means if you are finding a tool that's doing that, it's dodgy. You shouldn't really be connecting it to your Twitter account. So I do think it's useful. It takes one less click to get rid of each follower rather than the block and unblock button. And obviously when you block someone as well, you almost get a questionnaire about why you're blocking them. So it could be a lot easier solution. Ginny says, hello, Ginny says that the unfollowing thing looks useful, but is it any different from going into individual profiles and unfollow from there? So you can't make somebody unfollow from an individual profile. You will be unfollowing them. What this does is stops them from following you. That's what this does. And there isn't an easy way to do this at the moment. So it is completely new, completely new.
Hi, I'm Kyra Fingleton from Glamping Under the Stars, and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
As shops become more popular on Twitter and on Facebook, it's going to be harder for you to get the products from your shop seen. Particularly on Instagram. On Instagram, we've got the shop tab. People will go in there. What they see is based on their interests and who they follow. If they're following a lot of people who have shops, how do you get seen there? Well, soon you're going to be able to buy your way in. Instagram are going to start letting you promote products within within the shop tab. So you'll be able to buy yourself onto screen one of the shop tab. And I think this is going to be a really important tool for retailers. When you think about it, you can already advertise, of course, into the Instagram feed, into the Explore tab, into stories, even into Reels now. But when you do that, you're interrupting somebody who just wants to go and have a look at Instagram. When you advertise into the shop tab, people are in the shop tab specifically to go shopping. They have a buyer intent already. So by placing a product as a sponsored product here, it's going to be way more effective, particularly for the people who know you already as a sales tool. So I do think this could be really great for businesses, particularly if you get in on this early, because the more people who start using this tool, obviously advertising algorithms are going to kick into what gets seen in the feed. Learn how to use it as soon as you get this option, because we have that Christmas season. I know it's only August, but it is coming. And you need to be prepared and you need to be ready with your products. So obviously this is going to happen with shops. They came popular. It's like if you go to a massive shopping centre with hundreds of shops, you're not going to go into every single one. You're going to need to work hard if you're one of those shops to attract your customers. It's the same now on Facebook and Instagram. But that is in some ways a good thing, because within shops on Facebook and Instagram, you're going to be able to run a lot more ads, and it's going to be a lot easier to measure those ads after the iOS 14 update. Will I press a button? I'm going to press. I was thinking, should I press a button? I got carried away with the last one. I almost forgot to unpress it.
Hi, I'm Charlie Lawrence and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Twitter lists are a fantastic feature on Twitter. What they do, if you're not familiar with them, is you can add people to a list, and then you can filter your Twitter feed just to see the tweets from the people on that list, which makes them really important for keeping up with the people you need to keep up with. So for customers, maybe you want to keep an eye on your competitors. Maybe there's a whole bunch of influencers. Maybe there's just a special group of your followers that fit into a specific segment of your target market, and you want to make sure you're engaging with them. They're amazing for that. And it's a feature that has always been missing from Instagram. And back in the day, so much did I want this feature, I found a tool. It used to be called Iconosquare. I think it's changed now. You used to actually be able to create it was very clunky, but a version of lists there. So it would filter the posts that you saw just to the people you put on the list within that, not within Instagram. But then the Instagram API changed and you weren't able to do that anymore. It's a feature I want, and it's a feature I know a lot of people have wanted. I've seen requests for it on Twitter. I know it's something people want. And Instagram, well, there may be good news, because Instagram are testing something called lists. Just making sure I've got the right screen up there. Yes. You can see that little thing. This is from Alessandro on Twitter, which I'll link to after the show. And you can see that option, toggle lists. And when you go in there, you'll either see lists you've created or you have the option to create lists and you can add users to it. But what are we going to be able to do with this list? Is it going to be like Twitter lists? And the answer is, we just don't know. We don't know. All we know at the moment is that you'll be able to block posts or mute posts from people on that list or mute stories from people on this list. Now, this is really in the early stages. They haven't launched it. It's been found in the back end of the code on Instagram. So hopefully we are going to see this expand to be a much more useful tool. I would love to see Instagram lists. I don't know about you. And that's it. That's all for the Digital Coffee this week. Don't forget to join myself and Making, who's excited about the idea of Instagram lists, as am I. So you'll be able to hear our excitement. Come and join the conversation on Twitter at 10:30 a.m. If you go over to my Twitter profile, Spider Working, scary thing, doing a job, Spider Working, you will see the link to that space is pinned to the top of my profile. Come and have your say. Tell us what you think. Tell me I'm wrong. Amanda, you are wrong. I want to hear your thoughts too. And if you can't make that, I will see you for a special show which may feature the wonderful Louise Brogan next week. I will see you same bat time, same bat place next week. Until then, bye-bye.